You're listening to PARTNERNOMICS podcast, where we discuss the art and science of developing successful strategic partnerships. To learn more about the suite of PARTNERNOMICS solutions, visit PARTNERNOMICS.com.
All right, well, on today's episode, we are talking to Matt Allard, and Matt is with Dell Technologies, and Matt is the Director of Strategic Alliances, specifically focused on media and entertainment. So Matt, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Great, thanks for having me, Mark. I'm happy to be here.
So Matt, if you wouldn't mind, what I like to do is just get to know a little bit about people's background, their stories, kind of the path that they were on that led them into this wild world of partnerships. Would you mind sharing yours?
Yeah, I have kind of an odd background. I did start right out of school in the hospitality business. I worked for the Marriott, and that didn't last long. I didn't like that business, but I knew I loved computing, and I actually started in kind of a sales function. And in that first company, working in a technology company for sales, I realized I wanted to do product management, product marketing, and that's kind of where I aimed. And I eventually did that. I actually did that for about 20 years, managing all sorts of products, from integrated hardware and software products to software only, to cloud, to technology services and support services. I've kind of managed a little bit of everything in my career as a product manager. And actually, the job with Dell is really my first as a specific strategy and alliances manager, specifically managing partnerships with outside companies. So it's definitely a leap, and it's been a learning process for the 2.5 years I've been here. But I got to say, it's really fun. I think at this stage in my career, it leverages a lot of the expertise and knowledge I have, and I think puts me in conversation with all these partners and building relationships with them in a way I've not done before. It's quite fun.
Yeah. So Matt, talk to us a little bit about the different types of partnerships that you manage at Dell. I know that, obviously there's a wide span of types of partnerships. A lot of them are sales oriented, where we're trying to get more revenue. Some are technology to put the different technologies inside of other solutions. Others are more marketing and promotion. Branding related. Talk to us a little bit about the types of partnerships that you engage in.
Yeah, so the area I work in Dell, so Dell's a huge company with lots of different technologies and solutions. I work in the workstation group, so high performance computing for professionals in the media and entertainment industry who make television, make movies, make games, that kind of stuff. So big studios, broadcasters. So the partners, one of the primary areas of partnership is in the software vendors who serve that market. And so a lot of people know Adobe's Creative Cloud, products like Photoshop, Premiere Pro, After Effects. Those software products are used every single day to make television programs and movies and that sort of thing. So partnering with Adobe, because again, they have a huge set of customers, a huge potential audience for our workstation business, real important partnership. And so software partners, ISVs we call them, are really central to my efforts. So that's one kind of partner. Industry organizations are also really important to me. So things like Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, SMPTE, or the International Game Developers Association. Those kinds of partners give me, kind of visibility and access to what's going on in the marketplace. Part of my role is to help guide the company's strategy for media and entertainment. So understanding where the industry is going through those kinds of organizations is really important. I also have, what I would call partnerships or alliances with customers and influencers. We're kind of in a time now where social media is really important. And so we work with a lot of customers who have visibility in the marketplace and can help build credibility for workstations, precision workstations, as a way to get their job done. Our whole kind of value proposition is they're super high performant and they're super high reliability, so you can count on them to get your $100 million movie or $100 million game development completed on time.
Matt, I'd like for you to chat a little bit about ecosystems and kind of just the concept of different ecosystems. We're definitely hearing this word a lot more in the last couple of years, but it's where, technologies, they're not isolated. There's so many different tentacles that we have within within different technologies of how they work together, and that just opens up, it really necessitates partnerships because there's so many other players that come in to provide this final solution. Just look at I ran Sprint TV in my past life in partnerships, and we worked with a lot of the big studios, and just understanding how complicated that business is and how many different moving parts there are. Just from a technology perspective, like you just kind of chat about, this ecosystem mindset and the need to really work with a lot of different organizations, a lot of different types of solutions providers, so that your end customer truly gets a solution and not just a standalone piece product.
So I love that you use the word solution. That's kind of the alternate title for my organization, is Solutions and Alliances, because we are very much focused in that way. And I think this really goes back to, my function as a product manager before Dell, which you really have to find a solution to a problem to sell anything to any customer. Ultimately it has to be one that they're willing to shell out the money because they're going to save money, make new revenue, and so forth. So you've got to have a real compelling reason. There's two levels to that solution thing for me in terms of this role. One is solutions across Dell's multiple product lines. So I work in the workstation division, but clearly monitors are really critical, especially in media and entertainment, where you want highly accurate with wide color gamut monitors. We make those. We also make big infrastructure for big studios to be able to share content and work collaboratively on movies and games. And so our whole server, networking, virtualization businesses, VMware, all this stuff contributes to make a solution of Dell components. So part of this role is really knitting together all of the Dell stuff, not just thinking in a stovepipe way about workstations. Now, from there, I know what you were suggesting is the bigger solution of market players, and that's where I start, involving my partners. And so, good example is, if you talk about, I've recently done a couple of customer-oriented projects that had like 3, maybe 4 different partners involved. Adobe was sort of the primary creative software using After Effects, their visual effects software. A lot of the work was done using Blackmagic designed cameras and I/O equipment. So that's another partner. And then they used a bunch of Unreal Engine, game engine, as part of this particular project. So there's a third partner, and then Dell. So you tend to have this confluence of partners to build a solution. The reality is, it's the way my business works. Media and entertainment works by building unique pipelines to get stuff done. They aren't always built on, one singular vendor's stuff. And so for me, it's really important that when they bring Dell into the mix, they know it's just going to work. I always tell people that when you say show business, the second word is really important. It's still business. And so they're very concerned about performance, uptime, reliability, and nothing getting in the way of them getting their job done on time, on budget. So knowing that it just is going to work is a big part of that.
Yeah, it seems that everything that we do, there's software components, hardware components, cloud components, all of these different sorts of technologies, and really no company is able to do it on their own anymore. So the need to be able to partner effectively is an absolute necessity for the future. Matt, I'd like to just kind of ask you to dig a little deeper into just kind of the precision workstations. Yeah. And just give us a little bit more of an appreciation for the evolution of technology, I guess, of what workstations were like 10 years ago and what workstations are like today. We were chatting a little bit earlier about augmented reality, virtual reality, all of this wild special effects that's going into videos now. So many different companies are doing video production. We have 3 people on staff at our company that do video production. So it's so powerful. But talk to us just kind of about the technology and the evolution of the workstation.
Yeah, I think, one of the things you should understand is that, workstations for Dell are not just a sum of the Intel processors, the NVIDIA or AMD GPUs. We really do our own workstation design. We manage the cooling, we manage the overall infrastructure, and we add software on top of that hardware to maximize the performance. And then, of course, we do all the stuff with our vendors to do certification of software to ensure that it's reliable, and actually that software is optimized. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But to me, what's changed, 10 years ago, we were really kind of in the early days of higher than HD resolution media for video, so 2K and 4K. And that was a real feat. You needed a pretty big desk side machine to do that. Today, in 2021, we have mobile workstations that are tiny, under 5 pounds, that will run 6K and 8K raw material from a Red camera or from a Blackmagic design camera, Sony camera. It's incredible what you can do, and it's very freeing. It, again, is changing the way people work on the road, on set, and obviously during the pandemic, people being able to work from home or from anywhere where they can be safe has been part of that. That doesn't mean we still don't sell a huge number of tower workstations, because the use cases that we operate in are visual effects compositing. What I mean by that is I'm not just dealing with one stream of 6K or 8K video. I'm dealing with 40 streams that are being combined for a single image output. That's what the visual effects folks do. You need to be able to get all those 40 streams in and out of memory very fast, be able to work on them with the CPU or the GPU to do that. So, and I think, again, the reminder that these things run like, race cars. They run in studios 24/7, on deadline for the release of the movie. And so they got to run at that high performance rate all day long. And building machines to do that is the real challenge. And that's what makes workstations different than, hey, we make tons of PCs for gaming, our Alienware brain for general work activities. But if you're, really counting your business on producing a creative result or doing architectural CAD on the next, the next big skyscraper, that's where workstations come in. And that's kind of what we do there. Now, I want to mention a little bit about the software on the top, because, listen, the Intel components, CPUs, the GPUs from NVIDIA and AMD, those are commonly available. But what we do on top of our board design and overall case design is we layer in software to actually make the system run better. The Dell Optimizer software for precision actually uses some artificial intelligence to optimize the performance of the machine and of the software based on how you use it. Everybody uses the software a little bit different, or they use it for a particular thing. We actually monitor that and tune the machine for that. So, these are the kinds of things that we're adding in terms of adding value to the workstation beyond, a sum of parts, if you will.
Yeah. Matt, I'd like for you, whenever I think back to my older days and working with a lot of these different video production people going back, say 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, it seemed like it was dominated by Apples, by the Macs,
Sure.
by the iMacs.
Yep.
But man, sounds like Dell and others, but in particular Dell, just continuing to innovate. You guys have a great, great culture and a great history of innovation. Talk to us a little bit about some of the capabilities and functionality that you have today that maybe a quote unquote old Mac guy from 10, 15, 20 years ago might not know.
And I'm an old Mac guy from 10 to 15, 20 years ago. So I understand this argument. The first thing I start at here is, if, people love the way their Mac operates, and I get it. And, my first instinct is to not, tell them that Windows is any better, but tell them it's an alternative and very viable. I know with absolute confidence that we can produce a better performing machine for better value with much more flexibility. So, for instance, the machine that's right in front of me, I really can't show you because it won't show up with my background, is our Precision 5750. This is a thin and light 17-inch mobile workstation, but it actually fits in my 15-inch bag. It's basically all screen, no bezels or anything. And it will outperform any Mac Pro with the RTX 3000 card. It also has a touchscreen. Apple won't do that. That touchscreen becomes kind of addictive for our users. They think, I might not need that, but then they're running on it. It has Thunderbolt. A lot of people associate Thunderbolt with Macs, but PCs have Thunderbolt. In fact, this machine has full 2 channels of Thunderbolt, so that's 2 times 40 gigabits a second. It's huge throughput for running high resolution files through it. It has a beautiful screen with 100% Adobe RGB coverage. So it's what you see is what you get is still a concept that matters when you're doing work. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful metal chassis, really finely designed. So I think we hold up performance, reliability, and price. I think all of those things are awesome, in terms of what you do. And then I just say, from a support standpoint, especially with precision, we offer commercial support programs where if something goes wrong, we have arrangements where within 24 hours, somebody would be at your door to repair it, replace parts, and so forth. At this point, I'm not sure I really want to go and stand in line at an Apple store.
I amen to that. I was going to say I was sold about 5 minutes ago. Our next machine, it's going to be a Dell. I'm ready.
All right, very well. Thank you.
I'm ready. Matt, I wanted to ask you a little bit about business models. I know business models, man, just the world is running so fast right now. Just with so much change, so much technology. It's amazing. I literally just got off a Zoom an hour ago with a gentleman from Germany. We're talking to folks all over the world all the time. The business climate is just so much different today than it seems what it was even just a couple years ago. But one of those pieces is the business model.
Yeah.
And how companies monetize with that. And it seems that, we're big Adobe clients. Absolutely. Yep. We couldn't exist without their software, I don't think.
Well, that's very common for sure.
And, so Adobe, among tons and tons of other companies, have shifted and gone to subscription models, talking right. specifically about changing business models and how we work that way. Love to just pick your brain a little bit and, based upon your career in product and various pieces of the evolution that you've seen in business models and how companies monetize their products and services, their solutions.
Yeah. So I think, this has been a pretty central part of my my product management experience. Especially, I spent 8 years at Autodesk and was part of that transition from, permanent licensing to subscription licensing, and actually was pretty central in their effort. They had an enterprise offering called Token Flex, was actually a consumption model, not a subscription model. So, having been there for that transition, it really changes the way you have to operate as a technology provider. And one of the things that I really benefited from was some training with the TSIA organization. Their whole model for land, adopt, expand, renew when you're approaching a customer. When you're selling permanent licenses for software, for instance, you used to be able to sell a cut of AutoCAD and forget about it. You made your money, you were done. You can come back to them next year to sell them a support program. 3 years out, you probably sell them an upgrade. It was a pretty passive approach. Once you start selling subscription, the subscription calculation absolutely requires you to drive adoption of the product, expand use of the product so you get the renewal. And so that model that TSIA and others promote was very instructive. And in fact, for our consumption model at Autodesk, we had specific programs, and that was where I was doing technical services and support programs to drive adoption, to find other opportunities in large corporations for other product usage you could do, to ultimately expand your renewal, not just simply renew the deal as is. And I think that's pretty critical. And I'll say that this is a path that Dell is clearly on. We've got an effort to build more and more as a service as part of a project that was recently announced called Project Apex. And we already actually offer workstations as a service. So, this whole idea of being able to expand and contract your technology infrastructure on an OpEx basis based on the needs of the business really plays well in media and entertainment markets, because in entertainment markets, I always say those productions are like a circus. Sometimes they come into town, the tent goes up, you do the show, tent goes down, and so there's an up and down scaling that happens. And I think the industry is trying to figure out kind of what's the right level of owned equipment versus subscribed equipment or cloud access, and what's the financial equation that works. I think it's one that we're going to see, continued discovery in, and it's one that Dell is already participating in, because we have, all of the infrastructure from desktop to cloud. We can play in that space across our customers.
So Matt, obviously Dell is a massive, massive company.
You say.
And there's probably no shortage of different companies, smaller companies that would love to partner in with Dell and have conversations with you. I'd love for you to just chat for a couple minutes and speak to that small business technology founder that would love to have a conversation with Matt about a solution that he or she has. And what it's like to work with, what we call sumos, those huge companies, those Dells of the world. What kind of advice would you hand to that founder as to what it's like working with the sumo? Here's some things you need to understand. Here's how to communicate with us.
So a couple of things that come straight to mind. First is persistence. I think even as Dell, going to a major company as I'm not an executive at Dell, I'm sort of a lower level guy effectively, but you got to keep hammering away. Don't take no as an answer right out of the gate. Just trying to find that avenue in is critical. I think the folks that have been successful at approaching me, I found, people have approached me over LinkedIn and generally have an idea of what might be interesting to me, what the value is to me. And I think this is pretty fundamental to managing alliances and partnerships, is they have to get in my skin as a workstation alliances guy. I may be interested in hearing about, your business of putting monitors into Mac users. That's good business for Dell, but I'm not the guy for that. I could make an introduction. So you got to think about, what I'm looking for, and put your feet in my shoes, and have a pretty compelling pitch. I think the other thing for people that are in big companies like Dell is, I'm the only guy doing workstations and M&E. That's it, just me. And so my time is such a critical resource. You got to have a pretty tight pitch and story to come to me. If you can't tell me what the value is to me within 2 minutes, I'm probably going to tune out pretty quick. Again, I think these are pretty fundamental to any kind of pitch or approach you make for any business. Is you need to know what your value is. You need to know what the person on the other side of the table is values and is going to find interesting. And it's got to be a tight little story. I think being prescriptive is a good idea. When you're engaging with someone like me. I'll just say I have lots of competition for a finite budget, which I think most people think, oh, these big companies are so big, they have an infinite budget, and I can just come and ask for $1 million and it's going to be a piece of cake. That's not how it works at all. I'm able to do things on a small scale. The bigger the budget gets, the longer, slower things run. And so, I think realizing that big companies, the individuals, the small, the vertical spaces inside the company that you might be able to work with, they work with a budget, it's finite, and there is competition, fierce competition for attention, for my budget, my attention, my cycles. And so, it's the beauty of the position, as I do get some ability to pick and choose. But I think that has a lot of meaning of where's the value to Dell. And then I don't know if I can curse on this podcast, but
sure you can.
I kind of have a no assholes rule, that, I'm looking for someone who I can have a relationship with, who I feel like is going to take my interests and I can take their interests, and it can be a reciprocal arrangement. And I want something that can be durable and last long term. So I really do look for people and entities that I feel like this is going to work well, and they're going to look out for me. They're going to feel good about working with me as I am working for them.
It's really about the relationship, isn't it? I mean, it's people working together. It's not Dell partnering with somebody else. It's somebody partnering with Matt to help bring a solution or evaluate a solution for the market. It's
I think that there's so much that can get done based on the relationship and the value they put in the relationship, and kind of I know there's an overused analogy of the favor bank, but I have no issue with like putting all sorts of deposits in, because at some point I figure I can make a drawing, and that's been my thought, is the more I can bring value to my partners. So I guess the way I'm saying to approach Dell is the way I try to approach my partners, is what value can I bring to them? What is their strategy? What is their agenda in market? How can I serve their agenda? Because if I do that, then they're gonna sign up for the programs that I present to them. They're gonna do more social media through their organization. They'll extend my reach way beyond what I can do as the guy looking after media and entertainment for Dell.
Yeah. Matt, talk to us a little bit about, man, I love technology, total technology junkie. It's amazing what we see out there as capabilities, solutions for companies today. But what does the next 5 years look like? Whenever you look at your solutions in the product development space, but I love the word solutions also. But whenever you look at the solutions that are out there and where we're continuing to go in your space, what does the next 5 years look like from a technology evolution perspective and innovation?
Yeah, I think, I say the last 20 years had a lot to do with acceleration of image resolution, from standard definition was not that long ago, 20 years ago, through high definition, 2K, 4K, 6K, 8K. And that's defined a lot of the performance needs of the equipment, is this ever increasing number of pixels we were pushing around. And I think in 3D markets where you're doing gaming, it's increasing geometry of larger, these immersive gaming experiences where they're open worlds and you can go anywhere. Building those things were simply not possible 20 years ago and deliverable on a gaming console or a PC. So I see that continuing to grow, continuing to expand, but not in resolution, but in the areas of high dynamic range imaging. So we can already capture high dynamic range with our phones, with our cameras, with film camera, digital film cameras and so forth. And it can be delivered at home, through the services like Amazon Prime and Netflix, Apple TV Plus and stuff. So, the fact that consumers can consume it, and you really can see it. The difference between 4K and 8K, most consumers probably can't see that. The difference between an SDR and an HDR image is really stunning. It's so much more realistic, and that carries more data. And so that's becoming more and more important. I think the technology in my industry around virtual filmmaking. So, kind of the more famous ones were like Lion King. The last Lion King movie was all basically, the camera movements were all filmed with a physical camera in a sound set within a 3D environment. And that whole area has been expanding using gaming technology, game engines, to do this kind of virtual filmmaking. Same with the Mandalorian series. Most of Mandalorian is shot on a set with virtual set extensions that are projected on a big LED screen. When the camera moves, the projection on the screens move in parallax with the camera. And that's a huge deal in terms of changing the way that production happens. Historically, all that would happen as visual effects in post-production. You'd shoot on a green screen, we've seen that kind of stuff, and then you do all the visual effects taking out the green screen. Now you can actually shoot in camera with the effects on the screens. What that allows is really interesting, gives huge control to the director and cinematographer during production, but it also means that the Mandalorian set can be created and recreated when you renew the season just by loading the set onto those screens. That's really interesting. That's game changing. And then, we're not done in terms of technologies. Last year, one of my last trips before the pandemic, I visited Google's offices in the Los Angeles area. They do a lot of imaging kind of experimentation and research, and they've got an active light field capture stage where you're actually not capturing images exactly, but the vector directions of light with a camera rig. It's crazy stuff. It's really crazy. And rendering it can be presented to, for instance, holographic displays. Now, the amount of data in light field capture is huge, even bigger. But all of a sudden now you're in sort of full 3D capture, full representations that are pretty interesting. It's already being used in some cases for high-end visual effects movies, for image captures, so for kind of character capture. But that could become more and more prevalent. So there's kind of no end to this computationally intensive area of increasing visual fidelity for images. The only other area I'll mention that I think we're just starting to see is machine learning and artificial intelligence. This is absolutely huge. You're talking about enormous data sets and trying to derive inferences from those data sets. It's already making its way into my partner software. Adobe's actually branded that whole area of artificial intelligence in Creative Cloud. They call it Sensei. And it's doing things that were historically very manual and very difficult and very time consuming to become automated, simple, and easy kind of push button. And so, all of my vendors are starting to use those techniques. And they're things like image recognition, character recognition, converting text to dialogue to text, automated editing based on that in a script, all sorts of stuff like that. So really amazing stuff in that area, being driven by the need for hardware acceleration of AI and machine learning algorithms.
And it seems, as more of those technologies, become proven out, market ready, and other products and companies look to leverage those, again, more opportunities to partner. So we're going to be busy, Matt.
Yeah, I hope so. I think, it's been a remarkably good year for our workstation business. Despite the pandemic, there still is a need and thirst for local computing performance. And, it's very clear that some of this is going to scale up to the cloud when needed. But, there's still these kind of activities that need immediate responsiveness, interactivity to actually see what you're doing. And that's where workstations tend to play.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time. It's been great chatting with you, getting to know you, and to learn about the cool partnerships that you're leading there at Dell. So continued success to you. And man, it'll be fun to watch you continue to run that group.
Thanks, Mark. Really great talking to you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
PARTNERNOMICS podcast is brought to you by PARTNERNOMICS. Learn how to leverage the power of partnership. To listen to more episodes of PARTNERNOMICS podcast, visit PARTNERNOMICS.com.